Hey guys, thanks for tuning us in for this 28th episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests for this episode include Koda Kern of Chamomile and Whiskey, director Ken Kwapis, comedian and psychic Artie Hoffman, and Olympic gold medal figure skater Scott Hamilton. If you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, or leave some feedback. Our first guest is Koda Kerl of the band Chamomile and Whiskey. We'll be talking about the new single and video that are already available and a new album that's releasing October 30th. Chamomile and Whiskey. I even asked him how to pronounce it before we started this, and I still epic failure is it's what I do the best. Chamomile and Whiskey. We've got on the line with us. We've got Koda from Chamomile and Whiskey. And Koda, first off, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. No problem.
Now, Koda, tell us a little bit. I was looking at the backstory of the group, and it's better off if you tell it than me.
Yeah, well, we started the band, I guess, 9 years ago now. We're, out of Nelson County, Virginia. We've been based out of Charlottesville, and made a couple records. We've been touring for a long time, and I guess it was last year. We had gone through some lineup changes, and it was time to make a new record. So we had been contacted by Ken Coomer. He used to play the drums for Wilco, Uncle Tupelo, and he wanted to produce our new record. So we spent a lot of last year down in Nashville cutting the record with kind of our new lineup, a little more electric, a little more on the kind of southern rock, alt country route, so it's kind of cool to have a new record coming out that represents the new lineup of the band.
And what's the hardest part when you get new lineup, new members? I know it happens all the time in groups, but how long of a transition period is there for the formality or the comfortableness to breed itself out, if you will?
Well, I think it depends. For a while there, we kind of had a different bass player every year, but. Filling, it depends on kind of who you're replacing. I mean, the big thing that was a difference for us was our buddy Lavin, who is from Ireland, used to play the banjo with us and write some of the songs. He had kind of decided he wanted to go back to Ireland. I mean, it was nothing personal, no issues that way. But so that was kind of a big move for us because we lost some of the songs that we had, and he had such a unique style. So instead of trying to replace him, we decided to add a guitar player instead because we didn't really think he's such a unique character. We didn't think anybody could we didn't need someone trying to do what he did. We just thought we'd kind of take things in a new direction. And so it actually wasn't as hard as we thought because a lot of the songs that I was writing that wound up on this new record, they all kind of lent themselves more to a kind of a heavier sound anyways. And we just kind of let things kind of take their course as opposed to trying to force anything. And I think that made it easier for us.
And with the way the music scene is today, Koda, I mean, the not so much genre-specific music out there. Anyway, what genre would you classify yourself as?
Man, I've been doing this for a living for a while now, and I still can't figure out how to answer that question. We'd probably be better off if I could, but I don't know. I mean, I would say, I don't know, something maybe like. I think that in one of the things I saw recently, they called it deep roots rock. I don't know, maybe like rowdy Americana is a term we've used before. But yeah, I don't know. It's, we mix southern rock and country and with a little bit of, kind of folk. And we used to put a little more Irish in there. There's not a lot of Celtic influence on this record, but it's just kind of, each song kind of sometimes feels different to me. But I probably should have a more catchy phrase answer for that, but I haven't figured it out.
Now, Koda, where did music come from? Where did it initiate in your life?
Well, my dad was a songwriter, and he didn't really play out much or anything, but he wrote a lot of songs. And so there was always guitars and pianos kind of laying around the house, and he was always listening to, Bob Dylan and John Prine and, great songwriters like Neil Young. And so it was kind of around a lot as a kid, and I messed around a little bit, but I really didn't get serious about it until I was in high school. I was really into acting, and I would do a lot of musicals and stuff, and then I would go to parties, and you'd see there'd be a guy at the fire playing a guitar and singing the song, and you really seemed to get a lot of attention from the pretty girls. So it's kind of like, yeah, maybe I should I should I should try start doing that. And it just kind of, once I started playing, it just kind of just made sense. And I wound up dropping out of college, and we got a record deal, and it just kind of was. I loved everything about playing music. I loved writing the songs and playing, but I also just love the whole scene and just meeting other musicians, and everything that comes with it just kind of suited me. So I really have been doing it pretty seriously since I was probably 19 or 20 at this point. So it's been a while, but yeah, it's been, my whole adult life basically music's been the main thing I've got going on.
And Koda, for you, this year is obviously unlike anything we've seen, and obviously the music community hit this week with the legendary guitarist. I mean, anybody that ever dreamed, aspired, or touched a guitar since the late 70s, early 80s, Eddie Van Halen was one of the tops. And for you, Koda, I just want to give you a chance. What you felt when you heard the news?
Yeah, it was like another hit, man. It's like I feel like we've lost so many great musicians recently. Yeah, I mean, Eddie Van Halen was. I'm not much of a shredder. I wish that I was, but for me, Eddie Van Halen was the song that I really loved that he was on was the Michael Jackson song "Beat It." His solo on that, I remember being in high school and just like not understanding how a guitar could sound that cool. Like I just couldn't. It was just mind blowing to me, And of course, I love Van Halen too, but that song was what stuck out to me when I heard the news, And I know that, for me, I mean, I always had obviously a lot of respect for him, and he did so many cool things. But I know I have some friends who are really devoted lead players who have been really, hit hard because he was just especially if that's what you were really going after. He is such an innovative, player, and it's like you said, he really did kind of changed the game, and I think he influenced pretty much anyone that played any kind of rock and roll after he came around.
So talking about the year that is 2020, for you, how has 2020 looked different, and maybe what has that inspired you, or maybe made you rethink kind of the format, if you will?
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. I mean, I remember, I think it was February. I was talking to my mom on the phone, talking to Mama, and just telling her, like, the record's done, and we're going to put it up this spring. The new agent's great. We got all the people right. I mean, it's really excited. It's going to be a big year for us. We're going to be touring all around this record. I felt like everything had come together, And then all of a sudden, every show we have is canceled. The album release is being postponed. And it was just kind of crazy. But at the same time, so at first, it was definitely... it was hard at first, but at the same time, this whole summer I wasn't on tour, like I normally would have been, and I've had a lot of free time. I've been writing more than I probably ever have. I got lots of new material. I've learned how to do more with sound recording, things that I've kind of put off for years because I'm usually busy. I've had the time to kind of deep dive into a little bit more. So as frustrating as aspects of it have been, and as hard as, some of it's been, and I mean, I certainly miss playing live shows, but at the same time, I've been trying to kind of see the positive in it and remember that, there might not be another time like this where I'm kind of forced to stay still, and to try to find some silver linings and find ways that I can kind of improve and enjoy myself that normally would be more difficult if I was on the road.
That's right. Now, for you, has the inspiration been harder to find or easier?
Man, it's been easier. I don't know if that's true for everybody. I mean, I think, for me, like I always wished, and maybe I'll get better at it, I always wished I could do more of the like Bruce Springsteen putting himself in the shoes of this character and writing a song from their perspective. But most of what I write is at least, somewhat tied into my own personal stuff. So whenever, when you have like kind of heavy stuff going on, for me, that usually means it's going to be, better for the writing because I've got a lot to work with, so, and again, the time has been nice too. So for me, I've been about as creative in this last year as I ever have been, maybe more. But, I don't know if that's true for everybody. I think everybody handles things differently, but for me, it's been a good outlet to have all these new songs. I mean, I've got more than enough tunes that I've written this year for the next record. So that kind of feels good that like, at least I'm accomplishing something while I'm just kind of sitting around.
That's good. Now tell our listeners just a little bit. The new album, Red Clay Heart, it's coming out on the 30th. Give us a little insight into the latest album.
Yeah, so I'm really really excited about it. I mean, everybody usually is, I guess, when the record's coming out. But for this record, it was kind of like we were putting all of our chips on the table. You know, we had been doing this for a while. We got the opportunity to record with Ken in Nashville, which is just kind of a classic story. You know, like, all right, let's go to Nashville and make the big record. You know, but. So yeah, for us, we just kind of felt like, you know, things have been moving along well. We kind of been growing, but we needed to do something big, you know. So it was a great experience. Ken is an awesome person. We just got along so well, and we just went down there a handful of times, like 4 or 5 times last year for, you know, 3 or 4 days at a time, and just kind of cut the tracks really live. We didn't overproduce anything. There's a lot of raw stuff that made the record, and I think it just worked out really well for us because we just kind of leaned into the idea that we're not going to ever be the most polished band. We're not going for like some really pristine sound. We're really going for more the emotion of the songs. And Ken just kind of got that. So it's a lot of, you know, it's a pretty eclectic record. There's some heavy, slower, sad stuff. There's some kind of fun up-tempo stuff. But it felt like the songs just all kind of fit together well to be on a collection together. So I don't know. I can still listen to it and I'm not tired of it yet, which has got to be a good sign because everything else that I've recorded, everything else I've done in the past, you know, I'm like, by the time and it might be partially because we weren't in the studio as long, but like you listen to the same thing over and over, you're like, okay, well, the record's coming out and I never want to hear it ever again. I'm not tired of this one yet, so that's giving me hope.
Now, what have you had to focus on technology a little bit more this time around because of you know, doing Facebook Lives and making sure to stay connected socially as well?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we finished recording the record before all this started. So from the album's perspective, we didn't need to do anything like that. 'Cause I've got friends who are learning to record at home because they're not done tracking stuff. But yeah, I mean, as far as not playing shows and trying to keep an audience, you know, we've done some of the live streams. Honestly, that's not my favorite way to go about it. I know some people like it. I think some people are kind of tired of them, but which I can understand. But yeah, you know, we try to, you know, you try to be creative, and you know, social media is I have a really love-hate relationship because it's, in a way, it's great that you can have this free way of, you know, connecting with people and putting up stuff and promoting your band, sharing your music. But at the same time, I feel like it kind of can be a little bit like, I don't know, people take it a little too seriously or maybe are a little too worried about it. So it's kind of, I go back and forth on it some, but yeah, I mean, we're just, at this point, it's tough. And we're trying to do a local socially distant live show for the album release, which I think hopefully that'll be announced tomorrow. But, you know, we're going to try to do something live, but it's, you know, it's tough because, you know, most of my life has been built around playing shows. I mean, that's really what musicians do. Most musicians in my world, that's how they make their money, is playing live shows. So, you know, we're trying to adapt and we try to stay, you know, we try to get better with the technology stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of a day-by-day thing, I guess, trying to figure out the best way to do things in 2020.
The right hashtags to use too, right?
Yeah, I know. It's like I need to find like a college kid or someone who's really good at social media to kind of do stuff for us, because I don't mind it, but I'm definitely not I'm not an expert. You know, we make fun of ourselves a lot for kind of always being behind the 8 ball with social media, even though we're all, you know, our band, when we started, you know, I'm 30 now, and so I should be, you know, totally proficient with this stuff, but it's not my strongest suit.
Now the first single and the video are available now, way back, and I also want to give you a chance to talk about the video and the process of that as well.
Well, that was a lot of fun, man. And so way back we knew we wanted it to be our first song on the record and the first single, and so you know, for those of you who've seen the video, we've got this local woman, Emily Kresge, who's basically playing me in the video. And she's just a great musician. She has a band called Dropping Julia here in Charlottesville. And she had told me that she wanted to cover that song. And I thought that was a really cool idea. And it just kind of came together. And I called in a bunch of favors. So we got some really good filmmakers into our favorite bar, the Whiskey Jar, and we just kind of packed it out one night when they would normally be closed, and basically just threw a party. And it was so much fun. But one of the things that wound up happening was with the whole 2020 thing, I wound up editing the whole thing myself, which is something I'd never done before. I've always wanted to learn how to do that. And so it took me a long, long time. But I'm just sitting here looking at these images of my band and a bunch of our friends and fans just dancing and having the best time in this bar all through the spring when we're just not doing anything in our lives. It was kind of tough, because, my friends know, like, I like to be out at the bar. I'm a social guy. And so it was like, every day I'm like editing this video, looking at we used to have these great times. We used to pack in these cool dive bars and have so much fun. And I guess those days aren't around anymore, but it's fun to have it out now because I think it's kind of resonated with people. It reminds them, what things were like before all this stuff started.
That's right. Now, if folks want to find more information, Chamomile and Whiskey, I know you guys got the website, and can they pre-order the album as well?
Yeah, so if you go, I think, ChamomileWhiskey.com, Facebook, I think our Instagram handle's Chamomile and Whiskey too. And yeah, we've got links to pre-order the record. You can find the first couple songs on Spotify. And I think we have another single coming out soon, another video. So we're going to keep kind of leaking stuff until the day of the full release. But yeah, we'll have all the links and all that kind of stuff up on our social media and our website as well.
All right. And again, from Chamomile and Whiskey, I don't think I said his last name in the early part, Koda Kerl with us. And Koda, it's been great to visit with you this morning. And hopefully we can catch up again real soon. Looking forward to the release date coming up on the 30th.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Again, for more information, visit them online at ChamomileandWhiskey.com. Our next guest is director Ken Kwapis. He's got the book out called But What I Really Want to Do Is Direct, Lessons from a Life Behind the Camera, and he's spent a day or two behind the camera. We've got director Ken Kwapis on the line with us this morning. And first off, Ken, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Cameron. Thanks for having me.
Now, did you ever think that you were going to sit down and write a book about your life when you first got the dream of going into to directing?
No. This is my first book, and all I can say is what inspired me was not only the directing I've done, but over the past few years I've been mentoring a lot of up and coming directors, and I just felt like there wasn't really a book out there that. I don't know. There wasn't really a book by a working director that people could read. So I feel like I have some good tips to share with up-and-comers. So I started writing it, and it kind of snowballed into both a how-to book, but also a memoir. So it's really, as much as anything, it's my story.
Now was the very first break that you got into directing? What was it a smash hit, or did it take a minute to get to that level, if you will?
The first job I had as a director was I directed an after-school special, or I'm going to be more specific. It was called the CBS Afternoon Playhouse, which was CBS's version of the after-school special. And I would say the great thing about that was it was totally under the radar. It allowed me to kind of develop my chops, in relative anonymity. But the first feature film I directed in 1985 was entitled Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird, the first feature film to star the Sesame Street characters. So, pretty soon, right out of the gate, I was working with such luminaries as Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch.
My question is, did they prepare you for the high maintenance that you were going to have to deal with later?
Well, in fact, it's just the opposite. I would say I was spoiled because Jim Henson, Frank Oz, and Carol Spinney, who of course created not only Big Bird but Oscar the Grouch, they were so gracious, and again, this was my maiden voyage as a feature film director, and I only years later did I realize what a gracious group of collaborators I had, right, from the start.
And who was
because
it that...
other people are more complicated.
Yeah, I know, right? Now, who was it that was the first inspiration for directing in the first place? I mean, most people always say, I want to grow up and be in front of the screen, and you're obviously the opposite. So who was the inspiration for that?
Well, there wasn't any. I didn't know any directors. I didn't know any film or TV people. I grew up in a small town in southern Illinois. As a kid, at a certain point, I just became very intrigued by the idea that the stories I was enjoying, the movies I was enjoying, were done by someone. That there was someone, pulling the strings. There was someone making choices that sometimes made a story better or not. So I just became, fascinated by who was that person while I was the director. So I kind of tuned into that just very early as a kid.
And is a TV series or films, which of the two is the hardest to prepare for mentally, I guess, as a director?
They're both challenging in different ways. I mean, again, the great thing about feature film stories is that you can follow a character, over the course of one long form story, and the challenge with with series, obviously, is that it's almost the opposite. You have to kind of, in a way, keep characters and their storylines alive week after week over long stretches of time. I mean, they're just both challenging in different ways. I mean, I will say the one great thing about series is that, if in a funny way, if something doesn't work, well, that's okay. You'll improve it next week. But so I would say sometimes feature filmmaking things feel a little more precious, but there's something nice and just a little bit unpretentious about the television making process.
And for you, what do you take the most pride in? Is it the finished product? Is it the awards, or is it the friendships and the lifelong relationships that have come as a part of it?
Well, I would say the relationships are the key thing for me, but also, and I talk about this a lot in the book. I mean, you can't control the outcome. You can't control what the critics are going to say, and you can't control whether anyone buys a ticket or tunes into the show. But you can control the process, and for me, my yardstick for success is like, do I improve the process from job to job, from film to film, from television episode to television episode? So that's in a way the big takeaway from the book is keep focused on the process. Don't get hung up on the outcome.
And Ken, in times like we're dealing right now, times we've never come across before, do you find times like now harder or a little easier to find inspiration? Well,
I mean, obviously, during the past few months, production on film and TV kind of ground to a halt. It's starting to come back now, but I feel like in a way, it sort of allowed a lot of creative people to kind of have a moment of introspection. To kind of think about the kinds of stories that can be told in this environment. I mean, I've been in a lot of discussions with creative people about coming up with stories that involve two characters. Can you come up with a good story that only involves one character? Because that may be the only way to get a film or TV show made right now. So I think in a way it was actually, it provided an opportunity for people to really get creative.
That's right. And again, the new book, but what I really want to do is direct Lessons from a Life Behind the Camera. Ken, I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find out not only more about the book, but everything else you've got going on as well.
Well, I do have a website, which is called But What I Really Want to Do Is Direct.com, so you can definitely find out information there. And that's the main place to go. But I really think that I really am excited about your listeners taking a peek at this book.
All right. Well, Ken, it's been great to visit with you. I'm looking at the book here. I'm looking forward to spending some more time with it this afternoon myself. Have a great rest of your week, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks again.